Hello, this will be a demo of Live Assist from Microsoft Dynamics 365, powered by CafeX. First, I'd like to introduce you to the components of our solution. This is the Unified Service Desk from Microsoft Dynamics 365. So let's imagine we have a customer service representative named Jane Doe who is logged into the console. This is what she sees. So in addition to her dashboard on the left, on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the Live Assist chat widget, which is acting as a placeholder right now for where her chat conversations will take place. You can also see beneath Jane's name, there's a pick list of present statuses that Jane can choose from, indicating that she is online, back soon, or away. She indicates that she is online, meaning that she is eligible to receive chat messages off the queue. Jane is an expert on Photoshop. Meanwhile, in the customer portal, let's imagine that we have a customer named Charles who comes looking for help with Photoshop. Charles logs into the portal. And he attempts to find answers on his own by initiating a search. His search yields some results, but he's not sure what to make of them. He also notices the blue live chat button on the right-hand side of the screen, so he clicks on it to speak with an agent. Charles is presented with a pre-chat survey, asking him to indicate his product of interest. Charles selects Photoshop and clicks Submit. And he receives an automated response indicating that an agent will be with him shortly. Now, what's happening in the background is, since Charles selected Photoshop as his product of interest, his chat will be routed to a queue that is being watched by agents who are experts in the area of Photoshop, like Jane. So let's go back and see what Jane sees. On the right-hand side of the chat widget, Jane sees an orange chat waiting indicator. So she clicks on it to grab the chat off the queue. Now, because Charles is an authenticated user in the customer portal, his contact record immediately appears in the Unified Service Desk. In fact, we've created a session in the Unified Service Desk that's linked to Charles's contact record, which you can see in the center here. Jane initiates the conversation by choosing from a list of canned messages. Was there something in particular that you were looking for? She asks. Yes, I need help with a particular feature. Charles responds, layers. Now Jane, being an expert on Photoshop, knows a lot about layers, and she also knows where she can go to find some information to share with Charles. And that's the knowledge base. We'll go there in a moment. But in the meantime, she's going to acknowledge Charles with another canned message, asking him to wait a moment. Please wait a moment while I find that information for you. Now, with a single click, Jane can initiate a knowledge base search, which appears in this pane on the left. Notice also that the knowledge base search bar is automatically populated with the last piece of text that Charles entered in the chat, layers, and results appear below. Now, Jane is pretty sure that this is the article she'd like to share, but she clicks on it just to make sure. And then with a single click, she can send a link to the chat. Now, because the customer portal is built on top of the Dynamics 365 CRM solution, Jane can send a public-facing link to the same content article that she found in the knowledge base search that she just performed. So Charles can click on that link, and it'll take him to a public page containing the same content that Jane just found in the knowledge base. And because this page is also live chat enabled, the chat widget follows him there. Okay, at this point, we've demonstrated how chat and knowledge-based search can be leveraged to help Charles find the content that he is looking for. But let's say Charles still can't find what he's looking for on this page. He indicates this to Jane. Still don't see it, he says. Now Jane believes it might be time to start a co-browsing session. So she says, let's co-browse. And she initiates a co-browsing session by clicking on the blue button at the top of her chat widget. Okay, I'm going to move this over to the side, and then we'll return to the customer view. So Charles receives the message that Jane sent, let's co-browse, and he also receives an automated message inviting him to participate in a co-browse session. Now the co-browse session won't begin until Charles clicks accept to share the content on his screen. So let's do that. And then let's rearrange these windows a bit so you can see what both parties are looking at. And here you have it. The left-hand side is the customer view, and the right-hand side is the agent's view of that same content that Charles is looking at. And so not only can Jane see exactly what Charles is looking at, she can also control to some extent what he sees. For example, she can use the scrolling controls to move the content up and down. So you can see that the controls have a direct effect on Charles's view. And then there's a slight lag, and then Jane sees the same thing on her side. So she scrolls back up. And now there's a number of annotation tools that Jane can use to call out particular content on the page. For example, she could use the red pen to circle something, or she could use a highlighter. She can also use the spotlight tool to call out a particular hotspot on the page, like this one here. And that is, in fact, the content that Charles was looking for. So he says thank you to Jane, and he is done chatting. But I'm going to leave his chat open for a moment because I want to show you what it looks like when another chat comes in on the queue. So I'll close the co-browse session. We'll hide Charles's view for a moment. And we'll go to another view of the customer portal. Now, this is another customer. His name is Bill Gates. He's also looking for help with Photoshop. So he's going to initiate a chat. Again, he selects Photoshop from the list. And again, his message appears in Jane's queue. Jane clicks on it again to accept it. Now again, because Bill is an authenticated user, we start a new Unified Service Desk session centered around Bill Gates' contact record. And she begins the conversation in a similar fashion. Okay. Now, Note here at the top, we have tabs corresponding to Charles and to Bill. So these are two independent sessions that are correlated to the two conversations that we have going on the right-hand side. So if I click on Charles's tab, the whole context of the page changes. Not only do we see Charles's contact record in the center, but we also toggle to Charles's conversation in the chat widget. I can also toggle conversations without toggling sessions by clicking on one of these avatar circles. So I can go back to Bill and back to Charles without leaving the context of the session. Now let me show you something else. This is a chat activity record. The chat activity record is an entity in the CRM system that documents the encounter that's taking place, this particular chat session. And the chat is still underway, so it's not completely filled out yet, but we see that we have a start time, an owner, or the agent Jane, and the customer involved in the conversation, Charles. So let's go and see now what happens when Charles terminates his chat. He's asked if he's sure. And he's also presented with the post-chat survey, asking if he'd like to receive a transcript of his chat sent to his email. For now, he'll say no. And his experience is complete. Okay. So let's have a look at that chat activity record again. I'm going to go back over to Charles's contact record and navigate to his activities. Okay, and the most recent one rises to the top. I'll open it up. And now you can see the same activity record we saw a moment ago, but this time it's completed. It has an end time and it has a link to the chat transcript. And let's click on that. The transcript takes a moment to load up, so we'll just pause. And in the meantime, I'll draw your attention to this icon up here at the top, this green chat icon. That's just a reminder that there's another session going on and that another customer is waiting. Aha, and now you can see that it's changed from green to orange, indicating that the customer has been waiting for some time. Okay, so here's a transcript from Charles's conversation. Jane can refer back to it. She's happy with it, so she closes out of Charles's session entirely. And now she can resume her conversation with Bill. And that concludes my demo.